Well, it's nice outside. Good morning, everyone. We are here to make a joint announcement. I must note that this is probably the first of its kind on this particular topic. Frederick Douglass, our great Rochesterian, said, "A government that cannot or does not protect the humblest citizen in his right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness should be reformed or overthrown without delay." The challenges of recent weeks presents us with the opportunity to deliver the very reform Douglass was talking about. This moment yields an opportunity that can only be seized by people willing to engage in hard work with sensible minds and true hearts to address the issues that keep our community from reaching its full potential. That is why I am heartened to have joined here today with County Executive Adam Bello jointly to announce a true partnership, our City and County's Commission on Racial and Structural Equity. This commission will be empowered to examine and develop policies and legislation to overcome systematic and institutional inequities, as well as racism in Rochester and Monroe County. With Black and Brown communities being hit hardest in the wake of COVID-19's national impact, we must seize on this moment to restructure our governmental focus to lift up all people, specifically our Black and Brown residents. By doing so, we will deliver equity and strengthen our entire community and region. This commission will allow us to go beyond simply policing our community, but will be endowed with the scope to render change among healthcare, education, business, and governmental sectors within our region. We will rethink, change, and expand how government provides services to truly ensure that every family and every child has a full access to the American dream. We are doing all this and more for one simple reason: to change the course of history for groups of people that have been deliberately left behind. When you look at the concentrations of poverty that define so many of our neighborhoods, you are not looking at accidents or oversights. The poverty in these neighborhoods are not the unintended consequences of social programs. No, what you see is the abject poverty and neglect, the lost opportunities and stolen futures, are the intentional consequences of legal segregation and codified discrimination. There are deliberate results of government-sponsored racism. The governments of our yesterday create these problems, so it is up to us, and I believe up to us, each and every one of us, in government today and tomorrow, to partner together with our private sector to fix it. Rochester and Monroe County are and always have been a single community with great promise. We have incredible history that has been defined by three traits: our resilience, our resolve, and our reinvention. With these three traits, we have always controlled our own destiny. We weren't changed by history, we changed with history. From the young lion of the West to the photonics capital of the world, from a company city to a city of companies. Every time our economy changed, we changed with it, creating new opportunities along the way. New opportunities, second chances, fast starts, fresh starts, a fighting chance at life. This is the promise of Rochester, the promise of Monroe County. This is the community that I believed in when I decided to run for mayor more than 6 years ago. This is the community where my grandparents came to escape the Jim Crow South. It's the community that my father immigrated to. But as recent events have made clear yet again, it is still not the community where everyone is equal. And that's why the Commission on Racial and Structural Equity is so vital. We must shape our children's future so that everyone, Black, brown, white, rich, middle class, or poor, can fully live the promise of tomorrow, a promise of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I am excited to do this work, and we are excited to lead this work with two exceptional co-chairs. I will announce one now, and my partner in government, County Executive Bello, will announce the other. Our first co-chair is former Mayor William A. Johnson. Mayor Johnson has devoted his life and career to improving our community and engaging in a difficult work of creating equity and inclusion. His successes and the opposition he has faced provide him with a wealth of knowledge and experience to help lead this effort. He has a clear understanding of government, a clear understanding of inequities, a clear understanding of what we need to do as a community to move forward. I am grateful that Mayor Johnson is stepping up yet again on behalf of our community as a co-chair for this commission. Both he and his fellow co-chair will make announcements in the coming days to share information about the commission and how it will be, its structure and how it would be comprised. With that, I want to again thank my partner in this effort for his leadership, not just today, but every day. County Executive Bello, I tell him this all the time, was baptized by fire, leading our community and emerging stronger for it through the COVID-19 crisis, and now through what we're going through as it pertains to race relations. This commission and what will follow will not be possible without the joint effort of the county and the city working together to move our community forward. I am grateful to him for being a willing partner, for being a hand across the table so that we can all lift as we climb. Please welcome to the podium County Executive Adam Bello.
Good morning, and I cannot adequately express how proud I am to stand here alongside with Mayor Lovely Warren to announce the establishment of the Commission on Racial and Structural Equity. For far too long, there's been a chasm dividing the city and the county, and it's time for that to end. The stakes are too high. We have to understand that racism and the institutions that perpetuate it do not know geographic boundaries, and therefore our response cannot know geographic boundaries. The current COVID pandemic, which is proportionately taking the lives of our African American residents, in our recent weeks of Black Lives Matter protests and rallies have only laid bare the inequities that have existed in our community for decades. Monroe County and the City of Rochester are one community. And if we are going to tackle the insidious structural and systemic issues that perpetuate racism and inequities here, we must do it together. We cannot be a thriving county when 50% of our African American residents live in poverty. How can we move forward economically when countywide just 71% of Black or African American students graduate high school compared to 92% of white students? And we cannot look to the future of our region when an African American infant is 3 times more likely to die than a white infant. As a community, we cannot be okay with these outcomes. We must be a unified voice for real and lasting change. And that's why I am so proud to be here jointly with Mayor Lovely Warren to announce this commission, which is one step that we are taking to help us chart the course for making concrete, systemic, and sustainable change. I acknowledge the many local community-based initiatives that have continued to do this work. Since the summer of 1964, Rochester has been at the forefront of social change. Rochester was the first city in the nation to have an uprising to protest unfair housing and job conditions. In the many decades since then, Rochester has continued to evolve its social justice efforts. From our MAPI, Rock the Future, RISE, RACE, FREE, and REGGIE are just a few of the initiatives aimed at recognizing and addressing racial injustice at the interpersonal and institutional levels. We acknowledge the groundwork that has been laid before us as we now endeavor to address the structural and systemic issues that allow inequities to persist in our county and our city. The work of this commission seeks not to overshadow the efforts that already exist, but to add another lens that will point to actionable recommendations and changes to local law with the goal of addressing the underpinnings of these injustices. As Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." When structural racism and institutional biases thwart any of our citizens, our community as a whole cannot thrive. When structural racism and institutional biases prevent our citizens from reaching their full potential, our community as a whole cannot also reach its full potential. These are injustices that must be rooted out. Working together, Mayor Warren and I will create an environment of diversity, of respect, of inclusion, and we will set the standard for equitable communities. Our heritage demands no less. We walk the same streets as Frederick Douglass, as Susan B. Anthony, as Franklin Florence, as Constance Mitchell. The example set by these leaders of the past can help us see the path towards a better, more equitable future. While we don't have the power to change state or federal law, we do have the power to set our own house in order. And I will commit to acting on recommendations made by this committee where I have the power and authority to effect change. And I will stand side by side with others who are advocating with our systems to do the same. And I hear the frustrations that cries out from across our city and our community. I won't stand here and say that I understand because I've not experienced what it means to be the target of an unjust system. But I promise you I will do more than just listen. I commit to taking action, not just because it's the right thing to do, but because it's my responsibility, and I do not take it lightly. It is true that government works best when it ensures all of its people are treated fairly and all of its people have a seat at the decision-making table. That is the government I believe in, and that is the government that I intend to make a reality. The commission we've announced today is just one step towards rebuilding Monroe County as an actively anti-racist government that embraces diversity and inclusion. From the outset, I have been deliberate in ensuring my administration reflects the diversity of the community we serve. The challenges our community faces reflect the need to have a specific lens on our health and human services programs. That is why I brought on a second deputy county executive in Ms. Corinda Crosdale. The importance I place on community voice, involvement, and communication warranted that we brought on Dr. Candace Lucas as our Chief Community Engagement Officer. And I know we still have a lot of work to do to address the systemic racist policies and practices within county government. Therefore, we've begun the process of creating a Chief Diversity Officer to lead the newly formed Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, who will be charged with looking within county government to identify the inequities and develop a real, measurable plan working with this commission to eradicate those practices. But make no mistake, those are indeed urgent issues, so I'm not waiting. We've already started taking action. For too long, we've ignored what we know are inequities in our child welfare system. Many of our families are introduced to the system simply because they are black and poor. Now is the time to change. We've committed $300,000 to help strengthen those families instead of penalizing them for systemic and institutional shortcomings. And we will further address the disproportionate representation of black and brown children in the foster care system by reinstating the blind removal process to provide objectivity on case reviews. And we will address the tragic rates of infant mortality in our black and brown communities by deploying $150,000 to help create new community-specific messaging about safe sleep practices. These steps are just scratching the surface. And that's why today, on the eve of Juneteenth, one of the most significant holidays in this nation's history, I stand here ready to commit to doing the work. And that's why this commission is a critically important step. Joining Mayor Johnson as co-chair, I am very excited to announce, will be Dr. Mohammed Shafiq, who is the Executive Director of the Brian and Jean Hickey Center for Interfaith Studies and Dialogue at Nazareth College. He is uniquely situated to lead this commission because of his renowned work promoting interfaith dialogue. In the past, he has organized and led an international symposium addressing and enhancing interfaith work related to justice and peace and bringing together different faith communities. This will provide an important lens through which the commission will tackle its challenging work. Together, Dr. Shafiq and Mayor Johnson will be putting together the framework and structure to steer the commission, along with Dr. Archie and Ms. Crosdale, in a way that ensures expert and community voices are heard as they work to provide recommendations to enhance or modify laws and policies in a way that eliminates institutional and structural bias, racism, and inequalities in the City of Rochester in Monroe County. We live in a community where the color of your skin is a determining factor in your health and your economic well-being. And it is long past time that our governments take actionable steps to change that. Not only do I want you to listen to my words, but I want you to watch our actions. We are here to make lasting changes to our systems. We recognize that our systems have perpetuated inequities and disproportionately affected people of color across our county, and we are ready to become an equitable community. Thank you.
We can answer any questions that you may have. So our MAPI and all of those other organizations are focused really on the not-for-profit sector. And what we're talking about is this is the first time in history that I know of that city and county government is looking at government, specifically how we govern as it pertains to race and race relations and equity. And so when we look at what policies and procedures this commission will be able to bring forth, it's not just about one sector. It's about looking at how we do business as government across the board and how we can improve the lives of people of color in our city and our county. I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's exactly right. The purpose of this commission is to look at county government, city government, how we spend our resources and the programs that we offer and the services that we provide to make sure that we are providing an equal playing field for everyone in our community and that we provide opportunities for everyone in this community to succeed. I have said from the beginning that my goal is to make sure that this government works for everybody, regardless of who you are, who you know, the zip code you live in, the color of your skin. And this commission will take a deep look for the first time, I think, in the history of this county and the city to look at what are those structural inequities that exist within county government, within city government, to make sure that we are removing those barriers to success and that we are serving all of our residents so that they all have an opportunity to succeed, again, regardless of who they are, who they know, their zip code, or the color of their skin. Mm-hmm.
Really unvalid. But another call was for the charges to be dropped against those who were arrested in the rallies 3 weeks ago.
Right.
Is there a plan to do that?
Look, I think that everyone in this community has the right to protest and to rally and to exercise their First Amendment rights. And I joined those rallies. I've been at a number of them over the last several weeks, which are by and large peaceful events, that are peaceful events. And I would encourage people to make their voices heard. But what is not okay is tearing down and destroying other people's businesses, which is their livelihood. What is not okay is burning police cars and public property. So there will be consequences for that. That is not an acceptable form of protest in our community, and there will be consequences for that.
Our goal is to look at how we deliver services to our community so that everyone can be lifted up out of poverty. And as we have both spoken about, we know the challenges that we face as a city and as a county, and we're committed to looking at every sector of our government and making sure that this commission doesn't last for years, but literally we'll have a draft plan of action to us, hopefully within 120 days. For us, it really is about doing the work. We are committed to making sure that everyone in our community, no matter where they live, get the opportunity to succeed. And that includes looking at how we educate our children, how are our parents having access to jobs, are they actually making a living wage, are those things that we in government control, or can we lend our voice to advocate for those changes in the state and federal government? Some things we will be able to change on a local level, other things we will not be able to do. However, we can lend our voice and we can develop a clear path forward so that we understand where we're going and we're not doing things that have unintended consequences. We want to make sure that every person in our community has the opportunity to succeed, that every person in our community that is born here has a fighting chance at life. And the first time that this city and county government coming together around an issue that has been plaguing our community for generations is finally going to be looked at, and a plan on how we can deal with it will be developed, and we will work together to make sure that that plan is implemented and move forward so that the next generation doesn't have to go through what our generation is going through.
Well, Well, look, we're going to face, the challenges that face black and brown children throughout our community and education go deeper, I believe, than to even where they attend school. I mean, there's a lot of programs that have been announced, ROC the Future, that many members of my team are part of that initiative. And, and what we know is that the concerns that we see in the Rochester City School District does not rest wholly within the district. Many of our families and students face social concerns that have significant and long-lasting impact on the educational success of our children. And so we're going to continue to partner with ROC the Future while looking to this commission to identify laws and practices that are achievable by local government to contribute to the challenges we see in the educational system. I've acknowledged a few of those today in different ways that we can invest. But what we're really looking for is what can the county and city governments do with the investments that we make. I talked a lot about this last year. Monroe County government spends $500 million on social service programs. We have a $1.2 billion budget. And as I said last weekend, and I'm saying today, the way we structure those investments has historically been designed to keep people out, not provide opportunity to lift people up. We need to be in our schools. We need to be in the neighborhoods. We need to be in the communities, offering our services and programs to people where they are, not making people come to us. And that's what I'm hoping this commission will come to us with ideas about.
We called each other. We called each other. So I think that, we have been great partners since the county executive has come on board. I mean, we're talking about our COVID, response, and, as we started to see the systemic problems that was and all of the things that came out and all of the advocacy when people talk about housing, when people talk about economic mobility, people talk about education, people talk about policing, it's not just one segment. And the city, we don't do social services. The county is in charge of social services. And so we have to partner in order to make sure that what we're doing holistically is realized by all of our residents, and it can't be done separate and apart. It has to be done together. And that is the reason why we stand here together, united, to really change racial equity and barriers in our community. Absolutely. I have said for a long time that we tend to want to treat the symptoms instead of treating the disease. And this commission, the goal is to treat the disease. Now, we know that it takes a lot to change hearts and minds, but at least understanding where our inequities lie and how we can address them is something that we're committed to doing. We want to finally, in our community, treat the disease and stop dealing with just symptoms of that disease.
Can either of you speak to the diversity of this commission? Is there a diversity standard set for the 21 members?
We will be meeting with the co-chairs, and the co-chairs next week will be meeting with you all to outline what the makeup of the commission will be. But we do know that we're going to invite some other elected officials to be a part of the discussion, and that includes City Council and the County Ledge. And that's because we need our legislative bodies to be able to effectuate whatever change may come out of this commission. It's not something that we solely can do by ourselves. And so I think that it's imperative that we announce the co-chairs today, work with the co-chairs to, but anybody that wants a seat at the table, people that want a seat at the table, they will explain how to get to the table. It won't be 100 people because that's not going to get work done, a maximum of 21 people, but our goal is to make it diverse and as effective as possible so that we can do the work to move our community forward. So I have always been this proponent that black children should not have to attend white schools to get a good education, right? They should be able to attend schools in their neighborhood and get a quality education. That takes strong leadership, that takes a strong structure, that takes the right investment, and understanding what are the issues that they face on a daily basis in order to, that's impeding their ability to actually learn. And I think that the recommendations of this commission, I hope, would be to really look at and to tell us, okay, these are the challenges that children face, their parents face, because it's not just in any particular silo. You know, there's a number of issues that impact children's ability to learn. And we need to give every child the fighting chance at life and to live to their fullest potential. And we need to put the things in place that will allow them to do so. What that looks like, I have my ideas of what that looks like, but I'm taking a step back. I'm going to let the co-chairs lead this and come to us with the suggestions. But for me, I believe that children should be able to attend their school and get a quality education where they live. I think that if you saw last week, the governor and the state legislature are in a different place. They have actually come to local government and said to us, send them a plan. And so I think that this is a unique opportunity for us to work together collectively to address some of those mandates that may be on the county, some of those mandates that may be on the city that need to be addressed to effectuate the equity and the equality that we're looking to see across the board that may be impacting our black and brown citizens. And so I think that we have a unique moment in time. We don't want to let this pass, but collectively we need to do something and take a realistic plan to the state on those things that we may need to advocate for that will give us the ability to provide the quality of service that we want to be able to provide.
Let me just, Berkeley too, let me just say this. It's true we operate on a lot of state mandates, but how we deliver those mandates is under a lot of times local control. We are required to have social welfare programs. We're required to have a foster care system. We're required to have things like that. But how you administer those programs, how you are in the neighborhoods impacting people's lives is in many ways under our control. And that's something that I've been critical about for the county for years, the fact that we aren't more in neighborhoods, we aren't more in the school districts with preventative measures to try to reach people before they enter the system, but to help families and help lift them up. So while we're constrained under programs we're required to do, we're not constrained in many ways in how we implement those programs to impact people's lives.
So that's the goal of working with the co-chairs to ensure that. And so the only elected officials that we are inviting to this table would be those two legislative bodies that would be affected by this, and possibly the county sheriff, who is also an elected official. The other seats will be open to organizations in the community and regular people, but we need to talk to the co-chairs about how that is filled. But we don't want a table that is so large that the work gets lost. We want to be able to deliver a plan of action so that the community can understand that we are about making sure that in the end, we see results. In the end, this is not about getting hung up in bureaucracy, getting hung up in all the other reasons why, the 99 reasons why something can't happen. We need to figure out the one way that we can solve racism and make sure we promote an equitable city and county in our community. We will work with the commissioners to do that.
Yep. Awesome. Great. All right. Thank you. I think we're all set. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.